Hi, I'm Whitley Stewart of Whitley Stewart Estates, and welcome to the Real Estate Rundown podcast. Today, I have with me Brittany Burris, a good friend and colleague, and the co-owner of the Next Stop Collective, a luxury vacation rental management company. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, Whitley. How are
Good.
you?
Thank you for
Good.
joining me
Thanks for having me.
today.
I'm happy to be
Yes,
here.
yes. So, I want to just hop into what actually is a vacation rental company. Yes.
A lot. It's a
Yes.
lot. Yes. So we're a little untraditional because my husband and I, are also real estate investors as well as we manage vacation rental properties. So we do a lot of different things in our vacation rental management company, but we specialize in co-hosting for other investors, and we also run and manage our own rentals as well.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about how did you transition into real estate investing and short-term rentals? I want to know your background.
Yeah.
How did you guys start?
Okay. So, started back in 2019 when we bought our first short-term rental, and that was really just out of a need for us because we travel to Asheville, North Carolina all the time, and we were like, why do we keep buying a hotel, buying an Airbnb? Like, we could just buy our own Airbnb and have somewhere
Yeah.
to stay every time we go there. So my husband worked full time, I worked full time in corporate, in the marketing space, and so we both just continued working our full time jobs and bought our first short term rental as just kind of like a side hustle, and that took off and continued to develop, and we bought our second one, and then we bought our third one, and before long
Just keeps growing and growing.
yes, it was
Yeah.
awesome, and I ended up leaving my job in 2022 to just jump all in full time on our business.
Okay. So, what was the moment you realized that Airbnb could be just more than extra money?
Mm. Yeah, I think, we saw it take off, and we actually started in a really scary time, which was COVID.
Yes.
So COVID hit
A
right
lot of
after.
uncertainty. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was interesting was, COVID kind of shut down the world, and it did shut down Airbnb for a while, obviously, no travel and things like that. But when the world picked back up, everybody was looking to get out. They were tired of being at home,
Yes.
and everyone started traveling, and they're like, I want to go to an Airbnb or go work remotely. Everybody had this, work from
Yeah.
home
Yes.
situation. And so it started to really take off. And we actually bought our second property in 2020 when things started popping off again.
Yes.
So I think that was kind of the moment that it got scary for a little bit, but we also were like, wow, we really might have something going here, to see how much people wanted to get out and travel, and it just made us think differently about real estate investing, and it got us really excited. So I would say probably end of 2020, early 2021 is when we were like, all right, let's start thinking about this pretty seriously.
Okay. So, I know so many people hear about Airbnb
Mhm.
and how they can rent their primary residence
Mhm.
out, but what do you think differentiates someone that's like just trying Airbnb out and from a full operator? Because I know with the
Mhm.
the Next Stop Collective, that is what you guys do from start
Yes.
to finish.
Yes. Yeah, I think everybody thinks they can do it, and they can.
Yeah,
Everybody can do it.
can they do it well?
But they can't always do it well. Yes, and I think that's the part that we really try to focus on, and we've really developed good systems, good processes, and I tell everybody all the time, I always use this example, like, if you go to Chick-fil-A, you know what you're gonna get every single time. It's going to be consistent, you're gonna order your meal, and it's gonna come out exactly the same every single time, and I feel like that's what we try to do. If someone stays at one of our properties, they know exactly what they're going to get. The level of luxury and the amenities and the quality are always going to be consistent and the same, and I feel like that's what's kind of missed with when people don't have those operations in place. It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
And, when people try to do it on their own, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have
Yes.
the right systems and functions and processes in place. A lot can be missed. And you
Yes.
really recognize that as a guest.
Yeah. I definitely think that, with Airbnb, just the small things that you don't
Hmm.
think. You think, okay, we're providing a room, we're
Yep.
providing this, but it is truly like when you have turnover, especially like
Hmm.
quick
Yeah,
turnover, you have to have a system in place.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Or something will be missed. And, you don't want the guests to be the one to realize that because
Yes.
your reviews mean everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you realized in 2020 that
Hmm.
Airbnb was coming back stronger than ever
Yeah.
after COVID. So how do you differentiate a strong Airbnb
Hmm.
today versus back then in 2020?
A lot has changed
Yeah.
since 2020. And I think that one thing that's changed is there's so much inventory now.
Yeah.
I think everybody realized, I
Yes.
can do this. Oh, I can do this. And everybody kind of jumped into Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder to stand out now.
Mhm.
And I think what differentiates a good property versus back then is you have to go harder.
Yeah.
Something that was a standout back in 2020 might be just an average Airbnb now.
Mhm.
Everyone's looking for a unique stay. We've got one of our properties has a pickleball court, and
Yeah.
that is like the thing, and it
Yeah.
gets a lot of visibility from that. And I think finding ways to stand out is really important today versus back then.
Okay. So if you were starting over
Mm.
and you had 100K to invest in Airbnb properties or vacation rental
Mm.
properties, not just Airbnb,
Okay.
how would you approach it?
Mm. That's a good question. I don't know that we would have approached it any differently
Mhm.
because we've really leveraged every step of the way to kind of build our investment portfolio for the next projects.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're starting small or you don't, have what you need to start where you want to, still invest.
Mhm.
Like we started with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house
Yeah.
that we still have today, but that has helped us to leverage and to continue to build our portfolio. And we've just used the strategy of investing in locations that matter to us. Everybody has a different investment strategy, right?
Yes.
But we want properties that we enjoy. We want to go vacation at these locations in these markets.
Yeah.
So I would do it the same. I'm not saying we've done it all right because we've
Yeah.
learned a
But you would
lot.
start with one property in an area that you enjoy as
Yes,
well so that you can cash flow while simultaneously vacationing, right? Like
exactly.
you don't have
Yeah,
to pick or choose. So you're at
exactly.
an area that you enjoy, an area that you are, the restaurants, where to go,
100%.
all those things.
Yep.
So some familiarity in regards to the location and then
Yes.
something that you can enjoy.
Ab-
Do you think Airbnbs, you mentioned that everyone thinks they can do it. It's a lot of
Mhm.
inventory. Do you think it's still worth it now? Like if you were new to Airbnb,
Mhm.
would you do that with your investment strategy?
Absolutely. But I would encourage people to do it right.
Yeah.
So you might have to spend a little bit more. You might have to invest in a co-host that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
You might have to invest in a designer.
Yeah.
I think all those things up front feel like a lot. And that's the thing with Airbnb. There's a lot of upfront investment. But if you put in the time and the effort and all the financial things up front, it really pays off in the end. I, would not encourage people to just jump in, figure it out,
Yeah.
or, let me buy the cheapest options for the property, things
Yeah.
like that, because it may seem like, okay, I've got it figured out and this is a quick way to get into this, but it will backfire in the long term.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest mistakes? I think you're hitting on it of like thinking you can jump in, but what are some of the
hmm
biggest mistakes you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I would say that one is a big one of people just kind of jumping in and not getting educated, or not calling in resources to help them,
Yeah.
and I think that's one mistake we made. I mean, we jumped in, we had no idea what we were
Yeah.
doing. People really weren't investing in doing Airbnb back in 2019, or we didn't know anyone who was.
Hmm.
So we didn't have a friend to call. We didn't have anybody that we leveraged. We just figured it out
Yeah.
and we made a lot of mistakes that way.
Yeah.
And so that's why I encourage people to really leverage the experts, especially as you start out. And if you want to continue to build your portfolio, there's a lot of systems and processes that need to happen up front. And it's a lot easier to get that all right from the start versus
Hmm.
having to fix it down the road. So leveraging the people who know what they're doing.
What do you think is worth investing in when you're starting your Airbnb versus something that doesn't move the needle that a lot of people
Mm,
think is worth investing?
that's a great question. So design is obviously very
Yeah.
important in differentiating your property over the one next door, right?
Mhm.
So I think people sometimes get confused, like where should I invest in terms of what you're actually putting into the house?
Yeah.
And I think that's also something people miss in terms of the investment up front of everything you've got to do to
Yeah.
provide the amenities, right? So for us, there's some key hitters that we always invest in. Mattresses are a
Okay.
big one.
Yeah.
People want to sleep well on
Yeah.
vacation. Couches, things that have a
Mhm.
lot of wear and tear or that people will use often, we'll put some extra money into those to make sure they last. Things that don't really matter, throw pillows,
Yeah.
mirrors artwork,
Yeah.
even curtains, things like that,
Yeah.
like the little accent things that, you could go grab at TJ Maxx or
Yeah.
Marshalls or Home Goods. You don't
Yeah.
have to have Pottery Barn pillows in the
Yeah.
property. So I think there's a good way to do it to make it look luxurious, but spending money where it
Mixing those
matters.
highs and lows. But
Exactly.
exactly what you said of the wear and tear. Like, yeah, the
Hmm.
mattress matters, where
Yes,
you're seating, things that are going to be high touch areas,
exactly.
right? But no one's going to really be like, oh, this throw pillow
Yeah,
was made of this
nobody cares.
fabric. Yeah.
Yes, but
No one,
does it
yeah.
look good,
Yeah,
right?
doesn't
Like it has to
exactly.
photograph well, those
Yeah.
things. So it's not like just go buy the cheapest thing possible. It still has to look very cohesive. And I
Yeah.
think every property has to look like an interior designer put it
Yes.
together. A
Yeah.
lot of people want to DIY. Some investors want to take phone photos, things like that. Like that doesn't
Yes.
work anymore.
No.
Everything has to be the best of the best because there's a million Airbnb
There has to be a
properties.
marketing strategy.
Yes.
That's what I think a lot of people miss when they are
Hmm.
like, okay, we're doing a rental property, we're doing a vacation rental. Like you
Yes.
said, they're not gonna invest in photos.
Hmm.
They're even video. I
Yeah,
think a lot of people want to see how something flows.
absolutely. Floor plans.
Yeah,
Yep.
floor plans. People want to, especially I think what I'm noticing is a shift into like midterm rentals as
Hmm.
well, like
Yeah.
corporate rentals, and
Yep.
they're on the Airbnb platform. So
Absolutely.
I think those definitely matter in those spaces. Um, at what point does branding matter more than location?
Mm.
Does it ever?
That's a tough question. I don't know that it ever does.
Yeah.
That's coming from branding is like my bread and butter. So it's
Yeah.
hard for me to even say that, but I feel like location is huge in terms of short-term rentals, and it depends on the market, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a beach market, if you're not first or second row, it's a hard sell. Like
Yeah.
people are coming to the beach because they
That's
want to
what
be at the
I
beach.
think it's just like it's real estate, right?
Hmm.
Location, location, location. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
how beautiful the home is. If it's not the desired location, it does
Exactly.
not matter. The value. Yeah.
Exactly. But branding is like that cherry on top, I
Yeah.
think. And I also think, I use the beach as an example. Think of how many properties are oceanfront or second
Yeah.
row. But if you've got that branding piece, you're going to stand out.
Yeah.
So both are important, but location is definitely
Yeah.
everything.
Okay. So, what systems are essential? You spoke about having those systems in place,
Hmm.
when running your Airbnbs. What systems are essential to scale?
That's great. Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that because that's one of the things that we didn't do from the start, and I was doing everything manually. I
Yeah.
can't even believe that I did that. Thinking back, I'm like, how was I keeping up with everything on my
Everything.
own? I was pricing by myself. I was sending guest messages by myself. I was
Yeah.
notifying cleaners and maintenance team members of
Yeah.
everything. You just can't do it all, especially as you scale. So some key systems that we use are a pricing manager. So we
Okay.
use Price Labs
Okay.
that takes market data and prices the properties and fluctuates that for our demand at
Okay.
each property. And Hospitable, that is my property management software that I
Okay.
use, and it integrates all of my listings on different platforms.
Nice.
And it's so great. It sends all my messaging automatic. It connects with our smart locks. It is like the hub of everything that I do, and I would say those are probably top two for sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you definitely just dropped some gems. So
Yes.
Hospitable and
Price
Price
Labs.
Fight. Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Yep.
Okay, what does your team structure look like today? So you
Mm.
have that. Is it still you and your software?
It is definitely me and my software, but we have grown.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to say that. I would say that my teams that I've built out in different markets are really the core of,
Yeah.
why we've been able to establish what we do. So obviously all of my properties aren't here with me in Charlotte,
Yeah.
North Carolina. I've got properties all over North Carolina and South Carolina right now. So I've built out teams in those specific locations so that I have boots on the ground there. So my cleaning teams, my maintenance teams,
Mhm.
I've got, pool service providers, all these vendors that I use that I've established relationships with. I really rely on them from a day-to-day basis. I also have a virtual assistant, which
Nice.
I feel like is the new thing. Everybody's got one of
Yes.
those now,
Yeah.
right? But she really helps me and her team with some of the back-end systems and processes, and they've been key to success as well.
So I want you to describe for the Next Stop Collective,
Mhm.
who is your ideal client?
My ideal client, and shout out to my clients because I have really, really great clients. So I'm thinking of who they are, which are investors. A lot of them are busy. too busy to do this on their own,
Mhm.
but they also value quality and
Yeah.
they're willing to invest in things that matter. So my ideal client is someone that is not going to push back about giving a guest a gift
Yeah.
or investing in higher quality toilet paper to make
Yeah.
that, experience next level. So they're not skimpy,
Yeah.
they really want the quality and the value that we admire ourselves,
Mm.
and they're okay investing in that.
So you mentioned all the systems that you have in place.
Mhm.
What does scaling look like as a vacation rental property manager without burning out? You mentioned
Mhm.
it seems like you were burnt out in the earlier days where
Yeah.
you were going,
Oh,
you doing
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
I sure was. Yeah. Having those systems, of course.
Mhm.
And then I think only doing what you can handle. I didn't mention earlier, I do have another team member
Mhm.
that helps me as well. And, when we start scaling and getting to that point where I feel like I'm at capacity,
Yeah.
I know to pull her in, right?
Mhm.
Because I think quality is the first thing that suffers.
Yeah.
And that's not something we're interested in. And I think that a lot of the big management companies, that's what they miss. They scale too fast and they start missing things.
Yeah.
And so kind of pulling in that support to maintain all of your systems and your processes is really important.
Okay. So, how are you thinking about building you mentioned your portfolio.
Mhm.
How are you thinking about building long-term wealth through real estate? I
Oh
know you
yeah.
guys have a lot of properties now, but how
Yeah.
are you looking at it? What lens are you looking at it through?
Love that question because that is what excites us.
Mhm.
And I mentioned earlier, we've been leveraging the properties that we've been investing in to kind of stair step, right?
Yeah.
So building that equity, rolling it into the next property.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. It's like creating these properties that our family can vacation in, our kids can create memories at. And right now we're working on a project in Charleston, South Carolina, which
Nice.
has always been our goal.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it the other day, like how did we get here? And it's because of the time that we put into the other properties and been able to reach this step. So
Yeah.
I think renovating is a huge thing we haven't touched on yet, but that's
Yeah.
something that we really enjoy doing and finding, these gems that just need some love
Yes.
and creating that process all over again. So being able to design from scratch and building this dream property that, will live in our family as a legacy
That's
and
amazing.
that generational wealth through real estate is what really excites my family.
Ah, I'm
Yeah.
happy for you guys.
Thank
That is
you. Thank
exciting.
you.
So, what is your long-term strategy, or do you an exit plan, or is this something that you
Mm,
foresee your family, your kids, and your
yeah.
grandkids carrying on as well?
Oh, that's a great question. Time will tell.
Yeah.
I think that I mentioned the Charleston property. I
Mhm.
think there's some properties that I can see living on in our family, hopefully forever.
Yeah.
I would love if our kids were into,
Yes, I
investing
know.
eventually one day. We'll see, but obviously we'll pass some things down to them. And I think we are never stagnant. So we're continuously selling a property or buying a new property or starting
Yeah.
a new renovation. So I could see ourselves kind of doing that, as long as we're able,
Yeah.
just because that brings us joy. And from the co-hosting side too, I'd love to grow that side of our business. Maybe at some point we would sell off, and,
Yeah.
and sell off this big portfolio and retire and kind of enjoy life at all of our properties that we've
Yes.
invested in ourselves. So I think that's long term. But for now, I think the goal is just to maintain the quality and the luxury, level of service that we've created
Mhm.
and continue that as we scale.
Okay. So let's go back to what you guys actually do.
Okay.
I know you guys renovate, you
Yeah.
purchase properties, sell them, but there's also an aspect of your business that we haven't touched on, which is
Okay.
the co hosting.
Yes.
So could you explain what co hosting is? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. The loaded question
Yeah.
everyone wants to know. So, co hosting is managing a property.
Yeah.
So, if a client comes to me and there's like, hey, I need a co host, I have a property, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to host it, I don't know how to get started, we handle everything for them.
Mhm.
And what everything means is start to finish. So, some clients come and they don't even know how to furnish their property,
Mhm.
right? So, that's a service that we offer. Maybe it's already furnished, but they don't know how to get started and host. So we'll hop in, we'll create a welcome guide for them, we'll create their listing for them, we'll get listing photos done for
Yeah.
them, really full service in setting up their property even before we begin actually hosting it for them.
Okay.
So there's the setup, right? And then after launching, there's the actual management of the property, and we handle that as well. So what that means is everything: pricing,
Mhm.
guest communication, handling the cleanings and the turnovers, um, answering guest questions, really anything from a support perspective to make sure that the property is running smoothly,
Mhm.
make sure we're getting 5-star reviews, all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. And so from an investor, it's a to sit back and watch strategy, really. And I encourage my clients, you can be as involved or not involved
Yeah.
as you want to be. Some of my clients love to know what's going on,
Mhm.
and that's great. And some are like, just make
Just
sure my
handle
check
it.
hits.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
And I'm okay either way.
Yeah.
So, I kind of like understand what my client is looking
Mhm.
for, and we take care of the rest.
Okay. So it's not just it's hosted on your platform. It's not
Hmm.
just property management. So
Yep.
for someone that's looking to book on like Airbnb,
Right.
it will look like, will they have to create their own platform as well to co-host, or is it just directly booked through you?
So we handle that as well. So we'll
Okay.
create the listing under the client's profile,
Okay.
and then the Next Stop Collective would be a co-host on that listing.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
that way they still own the listing.
Yeah.
Everything belongs to them, but we get to handle everything on our end. So it's a really great partnership.
Okay. Okay. So what are you focused on next? I know you have the Charleston home, but if you
Yes.
can share any details of some exciting things to come for the Next Stop
Yeah,
Collective.
that is the biggest for
Yeah.
sure. We're doing a full studs out renovation on a property a
Ugh,
block from
ye-
King Street.
Oh, that's
Yes,
amazing.
we're excited, and we're in the midst of that right now. So we're
Okay.
hoping to wrap that up by the end of this year.
Okay.
And of course, we're already thinking about what's next after that.
Yes.
And so we bought a piece of land down in Oak Island, North Carolina, a couple years
Nice.
back. And we've just been perfecting the perfect architectured home for that piece of land.
Nice.
So I'm hoping here soon we'll be able to start that build.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for joining
no
me today. If you
problem. I enjoyed
guys are
it.
interested, please tell everyone where we can find your social media, the Next Stop Collective, all the things, your personal.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can find us at the Next Stop Collective on social media or thenextstopco.com online.
Okay.
Thank you,
You're
Whitley.
welcome.